Another episode of the Chart Addicts podcast. We have an up and coming trader here, Lorenzo Hooker. He's been having some success in his trading. I'm interested to pick his brain and see some of the things that helped him succeed and see if he can pass some of those things on to you guys. So, Lorenzo, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
I'm saying welcome back because we recorded the first one and I was just telling him it didn't save on the computer. So this is our second chance at it.
Round two, we'll make it better.
For sure. So do you want to give folks a little bit of a backstory on you and your trading? So kind of like when you got in the game and
Yeah, for sure. So I got introduced into trading back in, I want to say it was like November of 2019, right before COVID. I had a friend kind of get me into IML. That kind of opened the doors into the trading world. So then that's where I started to dabble and learn more about it. Obviously when COVID hit, I was in school to be a pilot. So I was like kind of trying to do both. When COVID hit, I wasn't able to fly. So that's where I really started to like look into more trading and learn more about it. Got into it fairly decent, where I was actually starting to like understand markets. Then had to go back to flying after about 6 months. So I ended up finishing up my private pilot license. And then after I got that license, I knew I really had a passion in this. So I took the semester off. That was back in 2021 of July when I got my private pilots. And yeah, I'm not looking back. I'm just trying to do this full time at some point, hopefully.
when did you know you wanted to do this full time? Was it before you started making money or was it after? Like, were you like figuring it out and you were like, damn, I could see myself doing this? Or was it when you saw the money?
Oh, I didn't even make any money yet. I had actually lost some money. And I was just like, even though I'm losing money, like I'm actually really enjoying learning, and like I'm actually waking up and I feel like, all right, let's try and learn something some more, because eventually this is going to click. Like, you look at school and, you go to school for 4 years. So why look at it in a couple months just because you're not making money? Like, you're a beginner. It's going to take you time. And that was one thing that piloting taught me, that I knew nothing about piloting, but I was able to go in and get my private pilot license. So if I could do that, I mean, shit, I feel like I could do this too.
The sky's the limit. So talk to people about coming up. What were some challenges that you had? And then talk about overcoming some of those things. Like were you like an over leverager? Were you just, over trading? How would you describe yourself early on?
Definitely over trading, also not really understanding it, and just seeing the market go against me and thinking, oh, I need to close out, and not really letting trades breathe or letting markets do their thing. Just being very impulsive and like trying to get caught in momentum and be like, oh, it just broke this area, it's buys, and you enter the buy, and next thing you know, it's just the wick grabs liquidity and it will sells the whole time. So once you learn how to stay disciplined and like actually wait for what you're looking for and not really chasing trades, that's where I started to like have a better understanding of markets, as well as starting to see profits and not really going with that momentum and just letting that take my money all the time.
Did you even have a trading plan before?
Not really. I mean, my trading plan would have been, let's just make money. I was just, yeah, I mean, it didn't matter really. Like, I knew about sessions, but I was like, I mean, markets are still moving. So there would be times where you would still think like, oh, well, we could still make money, because that's how, in some of these things, that's how they put it to you. Like, you can make money on these charts all day, every day. It doesn't really matter, but it does matter what you trade for sure, depending on that timing of things.
100%. Were you trading a bunch of were you trying to trade every single pair? And then have you narrowed it down now?
Yeah, I was thinking that I could do everything. So I would just kind of see whatever was in session at that time and figure I could go trade it. But obviously that wasn't the thing. But now I'm mainly down to trading NAS, a little bit of US 30, and then I'll dabble in currencies more towards like intraday swing trade on the currencies, because they have a lot more better structure on like the daily and weekly time frame compared to like being able to trade these indices on the daily and just look for your scalp moves / intraday moves on that.
Are you looking at your trading any differently now than you did a year ago? Or is it just more so about those few things that you had to fix, like actually getting a structured plan? Is there anything different about the way you see charts?
Yeah, I see charts completely different now than before. Not only from learning from you guys at ChartAddicts, learning more about like fundamental analysis and seeing how that moves markets, but also just learning more price action, more technical analysis, like on the daily, psychological levels, and just really like implementing all these different things. Because before also coming into ChartAddicts, I did take Q's course with Wall Street Academy, as well as Drewzy's 5-day course. So just implementing how they both trade, somewhat similar, because obviously Drewzy learned from Q, but you still see that there's a different style. So I was able to kind of pick and choose different styles and incorporate it to my own style, because at the end of the day, trading is also a very like personal sport, I would say, more because the fact that you are your own person and not everyone's going to be the same. So you really have to know yourself and know what type of trader you are, what are your pros and cons of yourself, of your personalities, and how they could hinder you or how they can make you greater. You got to understand that.
Okay, talk about that a little bit. Talk about understanding your personality and then kind of fitting your trading style to that.
Cool. So for me, I feel like I have ADHD. I'm always on the move. I can't sit still. Like, I just got to be doing something. So for me to like sit there and try and wait for a setup, I really have to, one, kind of occupy myself with other things, but not like over occupy myself, you know? So for one thing that I like to do is just kind of read, because I could read a couple sentences and kind of take a look up at the charts, where I noticed before, like if I'm just looking at the charts, I'm like, all right, well, if anything, I would just try and get in early and then think like maybe I scale in instead of waiting for my actual prime entry, which is what you're looking for to get into, you know? Also just understanding that like I might be impulsive and really think these things out and actually have a plan on what you're trading, and making sure that you can line up all your confluences instead of just seeing, you know, a bullish engulfing candle and thinking that's going to fly when you're not even near any support or resistance. You should be waiting for it to get to these areas before you enter, but instead you're trying to just enter into anything, think you can make money.
Was that something that you just learned through experience, or was there certain things that you saw that were like, okay, I see this person constantly losing, I'm not going to make those same mistakes? Or did you see somebody that was winning and you were like, all right, I'm not going to be impulsive in my trading because it's working for them? What do you feel like helped you get over it?
Dude, also watching you live stream, because that's how I found out about ChartAddicts. I had hopped on the YouTube one day, and bro, I saw you one day, you won. I came back the next week, you won again, and I was like, all right, let's, obviously this guy's knows something, so let's continue to watch and learn and grow from him. And that would probably be one of the biggest things for me, was watching markets in fluidity, because when you back test on things, it's nice because yeah, you could stop and wait and have the play-by-play button. But when markets in fluidity, there's no stop and wait and pause. Markets are going to continue to move. So being able to have that game time decision on, all right, we're ready to get in, and wait for our area to get in, it's very different than just like back testing on that replay, like actual being in live market environment and being able to now be in your element and play your game, take the trades you need to take.
I feel like it's like a missing piece in a lot of people's trading. Everybody understands that technicals are a big piece. They understand mindset's a big piece. Execution is a huge hurdle for folks. So there's two kinds of people that I see that are like on the cusp of becoming successful. There's people who are struggling with execution and people struggling with managing a trade. Some people have no problem sniping it when it's there. But as soon as you're in and there's money fluctuating, the up and down decisions, versus there's some folks that they have no problem managing the trade once they're in, but getting in, they're overthinking it and what if and what if and what if. So how would you describe yourself as a trader?
I am somewhat impulsive, but that's just kind of my nature of like having a lot of energy and wanting to do things. I just want to click buttons sometimes. I've really had to learn how to stay cool, calm, and collected in those times. And also just like not really choking my trades, because there's times where like, yeah, once you're in blue, you just want to put that break into stop even and, you know, not lose anything. But really that's hindering you. Like that's something that I've taken notes on. You know, I like to try and take notes on how I'm feeling before I took a trade. When I take it, I want to know what I'm feeling in the middle of this trade. Like, should I have closed out? Should I not have closed out? Do we want to see how this is going to play out? Do we want to maybe just shave off a little piece? That way, if we do lose, we don't lose as much as we've lost, as well as accepting your risk. Because once you can accept your risk, you could really let that play out and just watch it hit stop loss, knowing that, okay, we risked 1% of our account. That's all we were risking. So there's no need, if this trade goes against us, like, we took our opportunity on it. And that's also one thing in like trading in the zone that they talk about, is like, when markets are moving, you should be able to accept your risk and be able to let markets play out, because sometimes that stop loss will just get not hit by spread. And it's just like, all right, in that meantime, if you're looking at it, you might have wanted to close out, or like, oh, it's like, 2-3 pips away from stop loss, I might as well just close it out. When, trust your analysis is going to be key, because obviously you saw something in the markets that was going to be a high probability setup, and you have to trust yourself on that at the end of the day once you learn these things.
My guy's out here quoting trading in the zone. I could cry. I'm really proud of you, bro. You're really making a lot of strides just in terms of the maturity of trading. So that there's the mechanics and the technicals of trading, and then there's the maturity. Maturity is like when to stay out, when to, like, how to understand your emotions, and really at the end of the day, detaching yourself from whatever's happening on the screen, because you have a process. And I think that you're doing that really well. What advice would you give to your old self? Like a year ago, you want to give yourself a boost for where you were at then. What advice would you give?
For one, never give up. Just like in the markets, you're going to have higher highs, you're going to have higher lows, you're going to have lower lows. Like, it's all about how you react to those things, as well as understanding that whatever you're going on in life, as well, is going to kind of like bring to the charts. So if you need time off, like, the markets are going to be here. There's no need to trade every single day. Like, once you make your money, you could end that week short. I mean, I got into trading for the time freedom. I don't really want to have to like listen to somebody when, yo, you need to be at work now or not. Like, I just want to kind of live my life whenever, however I want. So, once you make your money, once you see you're making the type of money that, like, all right, cool, you're set for maybe a month or 2 months. Like, you just paid for 2 months of rent in, I don't know, a couple of hours. Like, once you start to put that into perspective and like what other people are making, that's where you really understand how great of an investment in yourself this is, to learn this skill, because end of the day, no one's going to take it from you. Like, it's something you can do wherever. As long as you got phone and internet, you can make it work. So you're kind of limitless with this.
That, I love that. That's awesome. Like, when you were sitting there, maybe trading wasn't going the way that you wanted. Obviously, you were having some self-doubts. Maybe I don't want to assume. Like, were you having some self-doubts about whether trading was for you and all this stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you're looking at like maybe a 10% win rate at some times, where it seems every trade you take goes against you and everything's negative, like, you really need to, like I said, having a journal, or just being able to be self-aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it, and being able to make those game time decisions and make those game time adjustments. For example, I played baseball, so like, I just kind of correlate it to baseball, where it's like that next at bat, you need to be able to be ready for whatever it is. You can't wait for the next game to make that adjustment. You need to make that adjustment like right here, right now. So let's figure that out, like, as you're going through it, and just continually trying to get better.
Like, it's easier said than done when you're like, you just have to be persistent with it. And if you're just like consciously looking at what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, you can make some progress. When you're losing money and you actually need the money, and it's just like trading's not working for you, it's a little bit of a different mind game. And so it's harder to see opportunity, and it's harder for you to kind of get out of that rut. What would you tell yourself, or what would you tell somebody who's in that situation now? Like, to help them get out of that situation?
I mean, at the end of the day, you need capital to trade. So if you have to do what you got to do to make ends meet, to have that extra money, then that's something you got to do for sure, because capital is kind of key with trading as well. So if you need to make those sacrifices on whatever it is, getting a job, finding another, side gig, just being able to set yourself up, because at the end of the day, sometimes you got to take one step back to take that 2 steps forward in life.
That's real honest advice. And I think that's great advice for everybody, which is, everybody wants to get rich off of trading and just never have to work, because you woke up on Monday and you hate your job, and everybody thinks that trading is going to get you out of it that day. In reality, trading is a longer term investment. Like, the longer you stay in, the more money that you're making, the more it starts to make sense for you to trade rather than be at a job. And then it starts to work itself out. but I think that's real honest advice. You have to have a stable financial backdrop to make good decisions on the charts.
Correct. If not, you're just gambling your money and you're just like, bro, we need to make money. So let's be in the markets at every time and anytime we can be.
Yeah, at that point, you're just stressing every trade because then you
Yeah.
need trades to win. Like you read Trading in the Zone. You know, Mark Douglas talks about needing a trade to win versus understanding trades are going to do what they do, right? And detaching
Correct.
yourself from the outcome of the trade. So, what are some tools that helped you get successful? And then I'm going to ask you what tools you're using nowadays to continue to grow. But back in that time, like what were some of the key things that you remember using, or some like videos or some concepts that you ended up getting exposed to that you felt like really pushed you forward? Was it coaching? Was it education? What do you feel like really pushed it?
Yeah, I
YouTube?
mean, really going through, like I said, I learned from Wall Street Academy, which is Q's course. So going through that course, there's just so much content, and he still has webinars back from like 2015. So you get to see how his trading evolves, as well as like being able to pick out things that need to work for you, as well as just going and learning from other people is key as well. Because I also did Drewzy's course as well, where they're different traders in their own different way. And from there, you kind of get to learn and pick out what you like. So learning different technical analysis, learning top-down analysis, being able to use trend lines differently, being able to use zones differently, and making it your own.
So that's a big key. So what I'm hearing is like
Yeah,
you took from different styles and then you just continued to refine it for yourself, and then you made it yours
correct.
basically.
Exactly. Just like how I got ideas from you with trading Nas, like it all works itself out. Like now I have that kind of like market open analysis that you like to do with London session. I now apply that to my trading where it's like, okay, well, if we see these opportunities play itself out, we can now take that opportunity as well as having our base case for everything else. So it just adds another confluence or another style to your trading.
For sure. That's what we're always trying to tell folks is be a student, not a follower. When you follow too much, then you just like you tend to get stuck in one way of thinking and you close yourself off to other possibilities. When you're a student, you can open yourself to constantly learning and you can make a much better strategy. So I think that's a huge key. So what are some things that you're using now to continue, like to either keep yourself sharp or to continue to learn or to continue to grow in your trading?
So I mean, just being able to, like you said, stay a student to the game. And whenever I'm free, if I can hop on with ChartAddicts when we're doing our market outlooks, as well as since we're on things like just learning whenever like these other traders will put out posts, like it's always good to just at least see what they're looking at because they're obviously seeing something. So if you could start to see what they're seeing and maybe just mark up the charts as they do, then you'll start to unravel new strategies and also get a point of view of what they're seeing. And now you can see how to capitalize from what they're seeing as well as what you're seeing. And then you continue to evolve yourself like that. We're ever evolving creatures in reality. So you just got to be able to roll with it and continue to learn from everyone and anyone.
What I've seen from you since day one is that you continue to stay like just like you said, you're like adapting and you're constantly learning and you're constantly growing. I think that's the mindset that's required for a trader. There's a lot of adaptability that's needed. Market cycles changed. You have to adapt your strategy. You have to adapt yourself. Your life circumstances change and you have to adapt in order to be the same person on the charts. That's something I've seen from you. And I think it's a big skill set that folks should try and develop in their trading to be successful. So I appreciate you kind of walking through some of those key things. Is there any other like memorable moments in your trading journey that you feel like you could share that might help somebody?
I feel like one of my bigger turning points, like you said, as evolving, earlier in the year, I had got my first funded account, and within like 3 days, this was like right before the news came out with Russia going into war. I was shorting Nas. I had made a lot of money off that, where I was up, I want to say like 20K in like 3 days. The next day, I told myself I knew I shouldn't trade because my goal at the point was to just originally make 10% on the account, take the 10K, and then come back, and try and continue to pull profits. But I got really cocky and I thought like I just knew it all. And I was like, nah, bro, we're gonna trade today. We're gonna go make some more money. I ended up over leveraging, letting my downfalls be more susceptible to me, and over leveraging, over trading, to the point where I ended up blowing that account in positive equity. So I never got that payout. And from there, I had a slight thought of like, bro, why'd you do this? Like, you're so stupid. And then you're like, all right, well, like, it happened. You can't change it. So now we're going to have to get back to the drawing board, and we're going to have to now learn from this, because everything's a learning experience. So from there, I took it slow. I ended up getting funded again. And I knew this time, like, all right, like, yo, once we're in positive equity, we're going to take our profits. We're going to use that profits to like pay ourselves, because at the end of the day, like, that's what you want out of the markets. And it also just makes it feel a lot better once you actually withdraw the money. Because yeah, seeing the numbers blues and you're winning and losing, like, you're not actually withdrawing it. You don't actually get to feel that real feeling of like, I guess, accomplishment with the markets. It's not until you withdraw it, that's when you get that real feeling of, okay, like, we do this. This is real. Like, the money's in my bank account right now. Like,
For sure. Just making the money alone, it doesn't gratify all the work that you've put in, because you're like, it's like kind of a game at that point. You're like, yeah, I made points in the game. As soon as the money hits your account, and it's not even like, sometimes when the money hits your account, it doesn't even feel real until you actually go and start spending. You're like,
correct.
I'm not really worried about X, Y, and Z, like, not like I normally would, because like, you know. And so that's what I feel
Yeah.
like folks need to get that gratification, because if you go long enough without it, you do forget why you're trading. It does start to kind of become a game. And so,
Yeah. And then that's where you could also just get in your head and like not even want to do it anymore, where like you're just like, this doesn't make sense. I'm not seeing anything from it. But yeah, you also got to pull that to actually make it feel real, and, kind of treat yourself in that aspect.
so talk to me about building back. Actually, the 20K losing, a lot of people would be in their head after that, kind of just talking about like, the opportunity was there to take it and you didn't take it, but you were able to reset yourself and to get back in the game. Talk to me about that transition period. Like, how did you not get down on
Um,
yourself and be like, damn, how could I have done that? Oh, yeah, da, 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 and let that affect your trading?
yeah. So you kind of have to, at least for me, what I did was like, take some time off the charts, live your life, because you also don't want to just be like super glued to the charts. You need to have that time for yourself, for your family, for people you really care about, and do the things that you enjoy to really bring that like happiness back out of yourself, to then realign yourself with the charts. Because what I've noticed is that like how you're feeling in your personal life will end up translating into the charts, because if you're stressed or if you're unhappy, then you're also going to kind of be unhappy on the charts, because you want things to go your way, but you're going to feel like everything's against you, when in reality you're just not thinking with a clear mind. To where when you were thinking with a clear mind, you would have seen your opportunity present itself, but your mind was clouded and fogged with these negative thoughts. So being able to keep yourself happy, exercise, release that energy to be able to come into the markets with a clear mind and be able to see and execute on your opportunities when they present itself.
There you go. So folks got to know who they are. They got to know themselves and know what gets their mind back centered. You mentioned exercise, you mentioned meditation, you mentioned just some things that could get your mind back recentered. Folks should know themselves and know how to get them, get back in that game. So that way, if these situations do happen, which they might, trading is real, right? Sometimes you
Yeah,
make a decision you're not happy about. And so you have to be able to reset yourself, because the sooner you reset, the sooner you can get back in the game. So
correct. With the clear mind.
with the
Sheesh.
clear mind, clarity is king.
Exactly.
All right. So Lorenzo, appreciate you stopping by the podcast, letting folks know it at home. Um, I'm really excited to see your trading journey continue to develop. Ever since I met you, you've had a lot of focus and you've had a lot of determination for trading. So I know that you're going to be very successful. Ladies and gentlemen, keep an eye out for Lorenzo. You might see him on another side of a podcast on the Expert Trader one day.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me, Roy.
No
Really
doubt, bro.
appreciate it.